So there are these oil and gas chemical companies who have access to what is considered gold at that time, ethanol, right? To make hand sanitizer.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of KLF Deep Dive. I'm here with Heather Bustos.
I've been an FDA compliance attorney for the past 10 years. I'm not even going to describe the horrors I saw that
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of KLF Deep Dive. I'm here with Heather Bustos. I'm hoping that unless I get derailed, I'm going to land up talking about INCI names and whatever that means. But before we go down that path, I'm going to let Heather introduce herself. Heather, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit about me. I've been an FDA compliance attorney for the past 10 years. I took a very unique track and essentially went straight from law school into owning my own law firm. Didn't really know much about this area until working for a family friend and fell in love with it. If I was not doing this, I don't think I would be in law at all. This is just a passion that I've had for a very long time. And so I have my own firm, Bustos Law Group, based in Houston. And we serve clients, everything from manufacturers, distributors, importers, brand owners, all across the supply chain. And we provide full service, so label reviews, registrations, GMP audits, and we work with clients in the food, supplement, cosmetic, and device industries.
Today's conversation is INCI names. So let's first do this right. Am I saying it right? Is it literally INCI, I-N-K-Y, INCI names?
INCI, and I don't have the acronym in front of me, but it's essentially, I want to say, international nomenclature. So it's essentially an international naming convention that is run by the Personal Care Products Council. And this is, like you alluded to, this is a little new to me. This is a project that I just worked on recently with a client, but I found it super interesting. I love when you get to kind of see the science. So in this case, this is an ingredient supplier and they're really trying to sell this ingredient to people. And they're having a hard time because the current names that are out there available for them to use are just not selling the ingredient. Like, they're not enough, right? And so the client's like, I want all the bells and whistles. I want something that's going to really describe this ingredient for what it is. And so my job was, hey, how likely is it that your ingredient is novel enough to earn itself a unique name that you can then use compliantly on your cosmetic labels?
It came as a marketing strategy, more as a let me point out how unique I am. And you went to the Personal Care Products Council, which is an international organization that does this. Now, so are we talking about an international organization based in Europe, or are we still talking in the US? How does this work?
No, US based. But this is an international naming convention. But you submit to the PCPC. This is a trade organization, and they essentially have groups that sit down I think it's like every few months, they come together, they congregate, and then people submit these applications. And then they'll vote on whether, they will make a new name for a cosmetic ingredient.
Like, how big is this group? Do you have any sense of that? Like, is it two guys sitting in the back corner, or is it a bunch of scientists?
This is very big. And there's tons of industry giants that are part of this group. And and they go to Congress, they, try to get legislation passed. They have conversations with FDA. Like, this is a really big organization.
So it's a lobbying group then?
Yeah, that's part of what they do.
How does that naming give them unique rights? So you get to say something like contains magic formula #1. Is that the thought process?
It's in the ingredient statement. So FDA requires that in the ingredient statement you use a common or usual name, and most of industry uses the INCI names as the common or usual name. So if it's not an INCI name, then usually you can't use it. They don't give you a lot of leeway. Whereas, for example, and this was something the client was saying, is like, why is it that Starbucks can call their ingredients like Starbucks flavored this and that, and I can't do it for cosmetics? The naming conventions are different across different FDA regulated product categories. What's allowed, what's not allowed, just like in drugs. Like I said, the client was having trouble getting people to buy the ingredient because they're like, if I can only call it this, why would I Why would I buy it?
So this client, whoever they were, and I appreciate you sort of walking us through this thought process, they came to you. Now, do they tend to come to you going, I'm having problems with my sales, help guide me, and you go, here's a strategy you hadn't thought of? Or are they coming in with, here's what we need to fix, can you help us fix this? How does that usually work out for you?
I mean, in this case with INCI, it's specifically, I guess, from a marketing perspective. And I have clients who ask questions like that all the time is, can we get creative with how we name ingredients on a product? So if there's an ingredient, for example, that might typically be, let's say, considered to have some intended use, but then the client wants it to be a flavor, right? Because they don't want to call it that. So that's where a lot of those ingredient specific questions come from, is obviously what are the proper ways to list the ingredients? And then can we do some kind of creative working of how we're going to name these ingredients on the label so that we can, meet their intended purpose?
Talk to me a little bit about that. So you're telling me that they come to you with, how do I get creative with names? Walk me through that process. How do you think through that thought process?
In terms of, getting creative with ingredients, there's also things where you can call something a processing aid or an incidental ingredient. And so clients will ask me, can we lower the percentage of this in the formulation so that it's considered this and not that? And so, yeah, it's very strategic, like how, and you're really digging into the regulations. You're reading word by word and trying to find a way to kind of utilize the rules, and be creative about how we can solve those problems.
Enjoying our content? We'd love to hear more. Please like, comment, share, and find more.
Is it fair to say that a lot of your practice is, I mean, I recognize you do label review, but it sounds like there's some manufacturing element, a pretty significant manufacturing element in what you get into. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because I just brought this up to someone else recently. A lot of attorneys in the space, I think, maybe don't have as much experience on, like, let's say the auditing or the manufacturing side. They've read through, they've answered warning letters, right? From a technical perspective, something that I got into, which I kind of fell into during COVID. So there are these oil and gas chemical companies who have access to what is considered gold at that time, ethanol, right? To make hand sanitizer. They don't know how to make it. I was basically going out to these facilities out in West Texas, walking the floors and auditing and helping them get compliant with OTC regulations, which, as you know, it's a pretty high standard. I'm not even going to describe the horrors I saw out there I mean, so yes, that is a side that I've gotten really good experience with.
When does PCPC kick in? Why do I care about the PCPC?
Like I said, it's a trade organization. They're very involved in the cosmetic side of things, and other personal care products. I think just because of the amount of also education they provide. So I've been to many conferences where they'll send, their people and they're educating on things. I went to one Cosmoprof in Miami a couple years ago, and they did a whole presentation on MOCRA. I've been to a bunch of webinars, and again, they have that insider perspective, that even the FDA is not going to give you on their webinars.
What has been your experience? What do you think people should take away in the context of MOCRA? Oh, by the way, maybe you can introduce MOCRA to people as well. What is MOCRA?
MOCRA is the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act, a mouthful, which is why everyone says MOCRA. This was a law passed by Congress December 2022. And essentially, the law was passed that gave then power to the FDA to create regulations based on those laws. And so that's the process we're in now, is the rulemaking. A lot of the rules are kind of vague. And, what tends to happen with any regulations as they come out is FDA will release guidances where they're kind of fleshing it out a little bit. So you can get a little more detailed as to how to implement. In terms of kind of where we're at now, there are some things that already apply. So registration already applies. You're required to register and list your products, which even that people are confused. I had to make a whole graph as to like whether you need to register or not, because even that was like really difficult. I had to make this whole chart for clients. to figure out whether you even need to or not. So registration, adverse event reporting, safety substantiation. GMPs have not come out yet, so we're waiting on that. Fragrance allergens, I don't think we've gotten that either. A lot of people in industry are like confused, as to how to comply, what to do. They have good intentions, but it's a little difficult right now.
Follow our page on LinkedIn.
So my advice for clients right now has been, and I work with drug, device, cosmetics. I've worked with tobacco. I've worked with food supplements. So pretty much most FDA regulatory stuff. Be very careful what you ask for. You just might get it. So if you ask for clarification, the FDA will eventually give you the clarification. But here's the good news. Where you are now, the Supreme Court has come out and said, you can't punish someone for not doing something if you didn't tell them not to do it. If you land up with, you FDA don't tell me exactly what the GMP requirements are, I hate to break this to you, but you can't hold me to requirements you didn't put out.
Yeah.
So use this as an opportunity, because the FDA will keep narrowing it down, will keep clamping down. And that's good because you get clarity. Yeah. But it's bad because whatever you're doing is probably not compliant with whatever they're going to come up with.
Yeah, I don't even think we've seen, someone was just asking me this question, whether they've seen a warning letter specifically just on cosmetic GMPs. I don't think there's been one yet. I could be wrong. What I tell clients, which to me, the old standard was, don't be adulterated, don't be misbranded. They don't tell you how to get there. It's open to interpretation, right? So just get there in the ways that you think.
I think this is fascinating, and I think we can have a million more conversations, and I hope we do, because this was so much fun. Before we go, Heather, how can people reach you?
So you can go to our website, www.bustoslawgroup.com, or you can shoot us an email, info@bustoslawgroup.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, of course. That's how you
Heather
and I
Bustos,
were introduced.
By the way.
Heather Bustos, yep.
Call, click, or email.